been about 2 weeks since a devastating storm came through and affected my whole yard, but especially my vegetable garden. Let's go take a look and see how it's doing now. We've had a lot of heat and humidity, and it's good and bad. Let's go see. Well, it'll give us a chance to walk through this little hedgerow I've got here. So on the right side is Cheyenne privet that I've been growing over the last 5 years. I'll do a separate video on that coming up pretty soon. On the right, we have these beautiful emerald green arborvitaes that I planted about 12 to 13 years ago, and they're fully grown, and they just look beautiful and filled out. It creates a really nice alley or allée. As we look down here, we can kind of see there's the other side of it. It's a little bit magical. So as we come through here and we come out of the arborvitaes, we come to my vegetable garden area. So this garden, if you're new to my channel, has went through a lot of transformation over the years. And in particular, this year we had to gut it and redo it because it was just so many problems. Oh, look at the butterflies. They showed up just on cue. I used to have a full row of roses that went down this side of the garden. And we had such a devastating winter, it took it out. Look at the butterflies. We are in August right now. If you're watching this in the middle of winter and you're wondering when this is, here's some milkweed I left for the butterflies. I don't see any caterpillars on it right now. And then I planted a bunch of different things in here. I always had these hostas in here, and then there was roses. And I'll show some pictures so you can see. This is a Proven Winners logelia I put in here. This is called Sonic Bloom. I don't think it's technically supposed to be blooming this time of year, but this is this year's plant. So usually these bloom in early June, late May. And then I planted a Scots pine in here. You might think, well, what in the world did I put that there for? That looks silly. That's because I am going to topiary it and do some cloud pruning with this, and I just think it'll be a really nice specimen tree along this hedge line. Here's another Sonic Bloom logelia. Little butterfly floating through. Funny. I don't think I could have planned that any better. These are my Casa Blanca lilies. This is an oriental version of lily, and it is highly fragrant. They're about, oh gosh, they're probably almost 40 inches tall. And they come, I got these just from a local big box store. They were really tiny. And it's taken 3 years or 4 years just to get them to bloom. This is the second year's blooms. This style of lily, an oriental lily, it'll double the blooms every year. So last year may have been 1 or 2 blooms. Maybe this is actually my 3rd year because there's almost 10 blooms on this plant. And they open. So they'll bloom for these will bloom for almost a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how many flowers you have that will open. Each blossom may last for 1 or 2 days. In some cases, I think some of these have been open for almost 3 days now. The clematis that I have growing on the fence line is a HF Young, and it's at the end of its life here for this time of year. And it really has more to do with the fact I need to deadhead it, and maybe in September, about 6 weeks after you deadhead, if it's a type 2 clematis, which this is, which is a large flowering variety, it will bloom usually 6 weeks after you cut it. And I do need to tame it down because it is out of control. As we come around the corner, I have some just flowers and pots here. This is a Sapphire Showers Durante, and it hasn't bloomed for me, but it looks like it's going to. You can see the little flower heads are coming. This thing looked absolutely crazy. So I overwintered these. I think these are zone 9 plants. I overwintered these in the house, and they grew, and then they had aphids. And so then I cut it way back, and then it grew again. I pruned it during the middle of winter because it was growing so much. And then I ended up, I'll put some, see if I can find the videos, I'll put it in here. And then I brought it outside, and I didn't properly harden them off. And then they looked pretty dead. And then I didn't care. I wasn't going to give up that easy, so I pruned it again. So I pruned these several times. And here I've got some basic snapdragons and some cosmos, which need a little deadheading too. I'm only allowing the white cosmos in my garden this year because I'm trying to get enough pure white cosmos seed to be able to grow them next year, and I'm putting them in my moon garden. This is a butterfly bush that needs a little bit of pruning, and we go into the main garden. So some stuff looks pretty good, other stuff doesn't look so good. But for right now, I'm going to just pan around. Oh, I changed my mind. We're going to look at this butterfly bush, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. If you want pollinators, butterfly bushes are great. I struggle growing butterfly bush in zone 4B, which is where I am. These are usually 5A. And for me, I've decided just put some in containers like this because it helps to bring the pollinators in. I think this is not a monarch. I think this is a admiral, I think. Look at this one landing right by my camera. How fun is that? Beautiful. So yeah, bringing pollinators in is important. All kinds of butterflies in here. Oh, it's a happy garden today. Taking a minute to pan the garden. And I've got butterfly. It looks like a butterfly exhibit, actually. There's a butterfly landed on my tomato plants over there, which is also quite interesting. Another swallowtail. Beautiful. In the containers here, I have lunchbox peppers, and you can see they're a little yellow. It's because I have 3 of them in a, I don't know, a 5-gallon pot, and that's like not enough room. So I did put a little bit of extra fertilizer in here to try to get it to take off. Compared to these are the same exact plant, same exact age, but it was planted right in my vegetable beds. My vegetable beds are filled with 100% composted manure. And there might be a little other stuff in there from a pot that I took out, but for the most part, this is 100% composted manure. And my plants really love it. And it helps to minimize how many chemicals I need to put. I would really like to do as much organic as possible. And so I've got, even the monarch butterflies seem to like the pepper plants. That's interesting. So in the garden, in this little nest box here, and this is about 4 by 8, is what size the little garden beds are here. Got a little rosemary tucked in here, and a petunia, again, to bring pollinators in, and some beautiful basil, which desperately needs to be harvested. If I don't get it done today, I'll have to do Monday and make more pesto. I love pesto. I'm going to be making, I'm hoping to get 20 quarts or 24 quarts of tomato sauce, and I put a basil leaf in each one of those jars. So I'm hoping that I can keep it alive by pruning it so that it's ready. Here's some dill that I grew. I've had a situation where I've let the dill grow wild in my garden and had a dill forest, which is really cool. Swallowtail butterflies really, really like dill if you're new to gardening. And these are, again, my lunchbox peppers. I don't know if I got any babies in here yet. Maybe in a week or so. I have some blossoms in here, but I don't think I have any babies yet. And these are the really small ones, the snack size sweet peppers, and I love to put cream cheese in them. My kids like them like that too when the kids come over. For some of them, it's their favorite. Then these are my tomatoes that I use, and these are just La Romas. I had San Marzones, but because I had such a problem growing tomatoes early on, I had used bone meal, which I've used for years, and this batch of bone meal must have been contaminated, and it shriveled up all my plants. It looked terrible. Even my potato plants, these are my potatoes. You can see how they're shrivelly. That's what my tomato plants look like. And the only thing that was the same between these two plants is I had put bone meal in there, and I think it was somehow bad. I don't know what else it would be. Crazy. But I've got lots of blossoms coming. Some of the plants are bigger than others. I'll try to put a video in when I transplanted these shorter plants. I'll try to get a timestamp on it and see how many days these have been in to try to get them to recover. I did one pruning on them underneath to remove some of the lower limbs, and then I am trying to get them to stake up and be nice and tall for me. And then I also have some nasturtiums in here just because I want to add another friendly pollinator plant, and because you can eat the flowers, which taste like pepper, is my understanding. My husband eats them. I'm not a pepper fan. My next little bed here, I've got some sweet alyssum that I grew from seed, and it's taken off and doing great. And petunia, again, just bringing some pollinators into the little vegetable bed. More tomatoes, another basil plant. I like putting lots of basil around just in case I have something go wrong, because I want to have my basil for canning and for pesto. These are my lettuce plants, which are at the end. You can see they're starting to go to seed. I'm going to let them go to seed. I want to collect the seeds from this lettuce plants to be able to plant next year. But it was really quite delicious. I think this one's called Ruby Sales, but I'm not 100% sure. Lots of different varieties of lettuce in there, and another basil plant stuck in here. So I have 4 very large containers in the center aisle here, and I wanted to plant some of my bigger vining plants in here. And this particular one has a pumpkin in it. This is one of the plants that succumbed to that heavy wind that we had. And you can see my vine got bent over, but it's still alive, barely. And then I've got a little pumpkin, which I think is not going to take. It could be a situation where it wasn't fertilized enough, but I just think it got stressed out from this getting bumped around quite a bit. I'm probably going to come back in and prune off some of the yellow leaves, but I want the other leaves, if they can, touch the ground, and they will root into the floor of the garden and help it to sustain and maybe get me some backup pumpkins, I'm hoping. This little watermelon plant is my Jubilee watermelon. And I've not been really good at growing watermelon. I haven't put a lot of effort into it, but hopefully this year we have such a hot summer that this one will work. I grew this one from seed. The biggest story for me this year is my corn. I'll have to get my camera stand. I'll have to get my tripod so I can stand at the backdrop of this. It's got to be 20 feet tall, maybe 12. Maybe 12 feet tall. And it got whipped around pretty good by the wind. I'll put a little video clip in to show you how bad it was. So I put some bamboo poles in there to try to stand it up a little bit. And I have been coming in. We've got a little wind. It's been tasseling for a couple of weeks, and I've been coming in and shaking the corn to get some of that pollen to get down. This bed here is actually my strawberry bed, and I decided to use it as dual purpose this year. I'll put a little video clip in here where you can see where I grew it from seed, the corn that is. I grew the corn from seed, and then I transplanted into the strawberry bed right after the strawberries were done producing. And I'm going to cut these stalks off in the end, and we're going to use them for a autumn display. So I kind of get a lot of use out of one bed. I also have some nasturtium I planted in here. I think this variety is called Cherries Jubilee, and it's really quite pretty. So I put that in there. If I come around to the back of this bed, I've got a cucumber that's growing in there too. So I'm trying to get as many cucumbers as possible. It's a little bit roughed up from me coming in and looking for cucumbers. It's kind of a tight area to work, but I figured it would trellis up the fence for me a little bit, and it is, giving me the opportunity to pick cucumbers later on. So this plant looks pretty healthy here, and this is only one plant compared to what some of the stuff that's been stepped on, I think. I thought I had some growing up in the corn there too. There's some growing up in the corn. It was simply just planted here. It's just one plant. And it's doing, you know, it's producing. We've picked some cucumbers off here, but I really need to come out and water in the back here. Oh, there's one. So if I go in here, I gotta go through the fence to get it. Can you see the cucumber? I gotta stick my hand to the fence. I'll pull it off if I can. See how good I am. And voila! That's a nice little cucumber. Go back down the other side here. This is a little fig tree. This is Chicago fig. I'm going to prune this up quite a bit. I'm going to take it in for the winter. And then next spring I'm going to pot it in a much bigger pot. So I overwintered it in the basement and it worked just fine. I just let it dry out. I let it freeze. I let it dry out. Put little newspaper on the top of it. And then I brought it up in spring. I haven't had any figs. Figs grow, I think, on the second year wood. So next year, if it's going to produce, it would produce on this wood here. But I really need to get it in a much bigger pot. So this little area here is my old nursery bench. So this is the nursery bench that I had, my very first one before I had my bigger nursery in the backyard. And my husband built this for me, just out of blocks and some 2x4s. So I had a place to put stuff that I was trying to grow. When I used to do my vegetable starts before I had a greenhouse, this is where I did it, just outside in the open. Because I had so many problems with my tomatoes, I actually had some leftover seedlings, and I planted those up in these 3-gallon pots to try to get enough tomatoes. Again, I want 24 quarts. Here I have some dwarf burning bush. This is the non-invasive kind that I potted up, and these are some mock oranges. This is called Minnesota Snowflake, and I don't know how they're going to do. This one looks like it's not doing well at all. This one looks like it's going to be okay. I'm going to overwinter it before I put it in the ground. I just think the root system wasn't strong enough. And then I've got a whole bunch of snapdragons in here, all of which I grew from seed. And we've already discussed the butterfly bush. So this butterfly bush is a proven winner's variety. This one in particular is called Miss Molly. As you can see from the video so far, they are loving it. Coming around, I've got a little bit of art. Coming around, I have some novelty plants. So this artichoke is novelty. I don't think it will do anything. If I think I start it earlier, if I get an imperial variety and I start it much earlier and then plant it out into a much bigger pot, then maybe it will do fine. But I'm in zone 4, so I have such a short growing season. These are my early girl tomatoes. Again, they are not very happy. I think it's the same situation, although it seems like they are recovering a little bit for me. But they should have already given me fruit over a month ago. Tomatoes, for me, usually give fruit in July, and I'm in August, so I'm behind. But it's been a wicked summer for me. And on the left here, I've got a little cherry tomato plant. I've got 3 of them in the bin, and they seem to be doing okay. I did come through just a week ago and prune them up, and they look much healthier than they had. The storm had blown it around pretty bad. So coming around here, you'll see there's just more tomatoes going down the line. So starting with this side, I've got the Norland red potatoes growing in grow bags. And then I've got another bed that I've stuffed full of things. Early this spring, I had all kinds of delicious broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and stuff in this bed, but the bunnies came in underneath the fence. So what we had to do is put another row of chicken wire fence in, and my husband actually has it going 10 inches inside, and he buried it. So it's 10 inches or about a foot inside of the fence line down, and it's completely buried so that if the bunnies try digging underneath, they will not be able to chew through it because it's chicken wire. So in this bed right now, I've got some nice dill, which is just starting to seed out, which is good. It's the way I like it when I do my canning. And then I've got some onions in here. These are just table onions that I planted. I had some leftover seed. I have some more rosemary in here, which I really like rosemary for carrots and potatoes and baking and stuff, or roasting vegetables and meats. But here's my little carrots. These are my second batch. Got some more sweet alyssum in here. I've got some garden sage in here. which I'm going to dry, and I think I'm going to use it for like when I do stuffing and butter for my turkey basting. And then I've got some radishes that I planted in here, just a little batch because I had an open area where the carrots didn't take. I spied a little caterpillar in here. Let's see if I can get him on film. So just know that especially swallowtail caterpillars love carrot tops and dill. And he's probably been there about 3 or 4 days. He's only about 4 days old, maybe. So I like leaving my carrots in the ground until it freezes. I think it makes them much sweeter when I pull them. And sometimes I have mammoth carrots and I just love them roasted. So when I'm making tomato sauce, if I'm doing anything late like that, I might be able to have some roasted carrots going at the same time, which is just lovely. And then I have a little bit of sweet peas in here. I had other sweet peas up by my kitchen garden, up by the house. And then I have another batch in here. And I've harvested a few. So I've really got it packed in here tight, which is fine. And this monstrosity is my poor cucumber bed, which got toppled over with that heavy wind, unfortunately. And I also have some bell peppers in here, at least they're supposed to be bell peppers growing in the center. The goal was to make a tunnel with the cucumbers and give the peppers some shade because they like being shaded a little bit. And it looks pretty radical. It looks pretty awful in here. And then we had a heat wave come through and it dropped every blossom on me. So I'm just now getting to come out and harvest some more cucumbers. And I'm actually going to do some canning today. I'll leave that grow. I got some in here, but I want them to be a little bigger than this. This variety of cucumber is called National Pickling. And you can see it's very prolific in the blooms. And the bees are loving it. They're in doing their job. If the heat will cooperate, maybe I'll get some more cucumber. My goal is to get 12 quarts of essentially baby dill pickles. And then my husband asked for some hamburger slices, or some hamburger pickles too. So we'll see if I can get that done. I don't need any bread and butter pickles. I've got so many bread and butter pickles. The back side of this looks a little bit better. I actually did come through and get some of the leaves off there. But the heat's been pretty bad. I'm sure there's some aphids on there. And it's just been kind of a difficult year for my poor cucumbers. So if Mother Nature cooperates, I will have more than enough cucumbers to finish my goal. I've got 4 quarts of dill. Well, I got 3 quarts finished right now of dill pickles. I've got to do 1 today, so I need about 8 more to hit my goal. So my husband had mentioned that he liked the black-eyed Susan vine, so I found some seeds this spring and I grew some of them from seed, and they were really tough to get started. They were kind of slow, so they obviously really like the heat. You can kind of tell by the texture of the leaf that that's probably the case. So I'm going to try to collect seeds from here to be able to grow this again next year for him. This looks like it could probably be pretty invasive, but I don't know. Does anybody grow this? Is it invasive in Zone 4? Let me know in the comments. And this is my squash plant. This is a buttercup squash, and I ended up with a vine borer. I ended up with vine borer issues on this one. I think I had 2 seeds in there, and it looks like 1 may still be alive. I see some dark green leaves, although it could be transcending down to kill all of it. And I may have to buy my squash from the market again, which I would rather not do. I wanted 6 good squash, I think, is what I wanted for the winter storage. But I don't know if it's going to happen. And then last but not least in my vegetable garden is my asparagus. This asparagus, some of it's been here for about 5 years or so, and other stuff is brand new, like these little ones here that I just planted this spring. And they're doing pretty well. A little bit of light weeding to do, but other than that, it doesn't look too bad. I did harvest some this year, but it'll be better harvesting next year. If you enjoyed this butterfly-filled garden tour, give us a thumbs up so YouTube knows to share this content with others. Also, consider subscribing so you don't miss any of our other great videos. Let me know in the comments, how many butterflies did you see during this garden tour? Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. A lot of butterflies.